These are all the books Marc Elsberg has written in his career. 7 books in total, and he's one of my favorite science thriller authors ever. So I wanted to make a vlog out of these books. 4 of them I have already read. 3 of them I want to read in this vlog. So before I start reading, let's talk a little bit about the books I have already read. And let's talk a bit about the author itself. Marc Elsberg is an Austrian author. So only a few of these books are available in English, but don't worry, I will point them out. So if you are interested in reading them, you can do that. The first one I want to talk about is Blackout. This was his debut novel, not the first book I've read by him. That was Zero. We come to this later. Because so far, Blackout is also my favorite book of him. And that not only because this thriller is written really, really well, but also because this thriller is discussed in politics, on science conferences, so by the people that really work in this area. And like the title already says, it is about a blackout in Europe. No energy for a whole lot of countries, including Germany, Austria, France, Italy. And this book shows what will happen if we have such a blackout, because the consequences are extreme, and it is not done with pushing a button to turn on the energy again. So this book was super, super realistic, super scary what such a blackout has as consequences. Because not only that we have no electricity, water is not working because the whole system is also electricity based. All stores are closed, including grocery stores, because nothing works anymore. So this is a real crisis and something that can happen in reality. We just need one person fucking the system, and fucking the system is more easy than I thought. So all in all, this book was super intriguing, super fascinating, and I can only recommend reading it because this book is also available in English and a lot of other languages. And there is also a series adaptation of the story, but I'm not sure if this series is also available in English because it is a German adaptation and I haven't seen the series yet. But I have watched the movie adaptation of Zero by Marc Elsberg, also a German adaptation, so not quite sure if it is available in English. But I really, really liked the movie, and I also liked the book. As I said, it was my first book by Marc Elsberg, and it is also a science thriller. This one based on AI and the introduction of smart glasses like Google Glasses. So, how this will influence our daily life, but also how these smart glasses can be a threat to our life. And it questions the whole AI industry, and that in a book that was written 12 years ago. So Mark Elsberg really looked into the future, or into the near future, because that's what we have right now. A lot of AI, people wearing these smart glasses. And the use of AI getting more and more common. So for me, also a recommendation here. This book is also available in English. So if you are interested in this topic, please have a look at it before we get to the next book, which is Helix. This book sadly is not available in English, but I still want to talk about it because I also really liked Helix. This book is about bioengineering, about cloning, and DNA experiments. It starts with the death of the Secretary of State from the US, and when they abducted him, they find some weird bacteria on his heart. So that start a whole investigation why we have a lot of discussions about using bioengineering in agriculture. So the pros and cons on that and how this will influence the future. And the further we get into the story, the more depth we get of this topic, because at some point also a clinic for child wishes is included, and this all gets more and more questionable. So, like the other books here, super interesting, super intriguing, and I really loved getting into this topic. So, also a recommendation for me. And with Der Fall des Präsidenten, so the fall of the president, we get a little bit into another topic. This is not a science thriller, this is a political thriller inspired by the first time Trump was president and how they investigate into a scandal, getting into the depth of it, what really happened behind the scenes, what nobody wanted to see or should see. And this book was not right up my alley because I like more of science thrillers than political thrillers. But still, I enjoyed this book and read this in one of my vlogs. I will link that in the description if you want to know more about it. Sadly, this book is also not available in English, but I still wanted to include it in this vlog because I want to talk about all Marc Elsberg books. So, with this, we are coming now to the books that I haven't read yet and that I want to read in this vlog. And I'm starting with Celsius. I am halfway through Celsius right now. I can say this book is super intriguing, super interesting. It is about geoengineering. So, finding methods to work on our climate and the climate change, to work against it. And the whole story starts when people from a plane see something like a UFO and start filming it. They are immediate reactions from countries like the USA when they find out that these UFOs are mega drones from China, because the first reaction is China wants to attack us and we need to start a war. We need to fight back. But the mega drones aren't for a war, they aren't for an attack. The mega drones are for geoengineering. And in the end, they shall bring some elements, I forgot which ones, to the atmosphere of our Earth. And these elements or gases should work like an umbrella to protect the earth from the sun and the atmosphere can heal. So again, it should work against the climate change that we have. And I think this topic is super, super intriguing. But there's also involved a lot of politics because with this action, China overtook the control of the whole world climate, and other countries are not happy about it, like Germany and the US, because with its action, China also wants to dictate a lot of rules for the next few years and the future, how each and every country in the world should protect their economy, should work in the name of China here to prevent further damage in the climate change. And of course, other countries like the US and Germany wants to have a say in it. They are not very happy about these rules, and there starts a whole big debate. And we also have a super intriguing suspense plot because 7 years ago there was a movie filmed in Nigeria. Nobody knows what this movie is about, and it never seen the light of the day. But someone sent a screenshot from the source material of this movie where mega drones are to be seen. And now one of the actors starts to investigate. Each and every actor of this movie only knows the scenes he participated in, and the only person who saw the whole movie was the cutter. But she suspiciously is already dead. She died in an accident. And our whistleblower here, the actor that starts to investigate, is also killed the moment he spoke with a journalist about the whole topic. So, a lot going on, but I'm loving it so far, and I can't wait to continue reading to see what is going on and how they want to find solutions for their problems. I hope they can find a way to work together, even if China takes the lead here, because the climate change is a serious topic and we really need to work and change things so the whole change gets better and we can prevent further damage. At the moment, this is all just theory in our reality. It is not really tested yet, but there are a lot of scientists that are doing research on this topic and try to find a solution. So let's see how this fictional solution will work. I will keep you updated and I see you when I finished the book. For the final update now, I made myself a little vocabulary list here. So hopefully I am using the right words now to talk about Celsius. The big topic of the story was solar radiation management, and we had two different scenarios here. So they installed something like a parasol in the Earth atmosphere to stop the global warming. But in scenario A, some people destroyed the solar radiation project, which led to a termination shock, so a more extreme global warming, which means droughts, which means permafrost thawing, which means a lot of flooding. So, a lot of catastrophes, which was super scary because something like this can happen in our future. And the other scenario, scenario B, was that a lot of countries decided to use this solar radiation management to make the parasol even more extreme. So, not even stopping the global warming, but put it in the negative, which means the earth gets colder and regions like the US and Europe get more Arctic climate, and regions like Africa and South America get the climate zone we have here in Europe and the US right now, which means they are in the power position. They can grow, they can make the money and the decisions. And that was also super scary because, as I said, I live in Europe and I don't want this to happen because, in the end, we discussed a lot of food shortage and other shortages. European people became refugees and wanted to flee to other countries. So for me, super, super scary because it was so realistic and a possible future, but also extremely good and well written. There were some points where I was confused reading these stories because of the different scenarios and how they were presented, but the way they were presented made sense in the end. And I also shed a few tears in the end. So I can definitely recommend reading this book. And I also recommended it to my dad yesterday when I saw him. And he immediately purchased the ebook so he can read the book in the future. So I influenced here at least one other person to read Celsius. And we will see now if I need to influence him a bit more and how interesting the other books of this vlog will be. The next book of this vlog is Gear by Marc Elsberg. So, Greed in English. Yes, it is also available in English. And not really a science thriller, more of a economical thriller. And so far, I am halfway through the book and I'm enjoying it so far. It is super fast paced and the chapters are quite short, so I'm flying through these pages. And the whole setup is an upcoming financial and economical crisis like the Great Depression, or this crisis is already happening. I'm not quite sure. There are a lot of demonstrations happening in Berlin here. This is where most of the book is set so far. And they all compare what's happening with the financial and economical crisis we had in 2008. So, when the whole real estate bubble in the US popped, and I think also when Greece was broke, but I can be wrong here. I'm not that deep into the topic, and I wasn't in 2008 when I was 17. So I can only argue with what I'm reading here. And the whole story starts with demonstrations that are happening and with an upcoming conference in Berlin where a Nobel Prize winner is awaited. But the Nobel Prize winner is murdered at the beginning of the story together with two other guys. They made it look like a car accident, but it wasn't. And we have one witness that saw what was happening, but he's also the suspect of the police. So he flees and tries to investigate on his own. But we also have the POV of one of the policewomen that investigates in this case. And we have more POVs outside of this. So, one POV from one of the conference members, and a lot of other things that are going on. Please don't expect me to give you any names of the characters because I can't. I'm super, super bad with names, especially in a multiple POV book that is super fast paced and switching a lot between these POVs. And we have a lot of side characters. But the story is super intriguing, super interesting, as always with Marc Elsberg's books. But this book is also a little bit of a special interest because as our witness starts to investigate together with one of the side characters, he discusses a lot of economical theories like the game theory or the prisoner's dilemma. So, a lot of statistics, and with that, math. And yes, it is Math 101, at least for me. I also had these topics, dilemmas, and theories in school and when I studied. But I know this is not for everyone, but I'm interested in it. I want to see where this is going because so far I have no idea why this one person was murdered, or three persons, but one was the main goal of these people that are also still very mysterious. They were ordered from someone to do this job, but I don't know from whom and I don't know why. So I am really intrigued to read the second half of the story to see where this is all going and what's the big reveal, to see what our victim discovered that all of this is happening now, and if this all will prevent the financial and economical crisis. We will see when I give you my next update. And I am back with my final update for Greed, a super, super exciting economic thriller. I really loved reading the story, and I was super interested to see how the story will continue and how it will end. Because personally, I'm not that much into economics, and this book builds on economics. And reading the story, following these characters and their explanation of economic theories really intrigued me, surprisingly. And when we got to the turning point of the story, the reason for this whole plot, I got super, super invested because everything that happened here is because some people found out that there is a major mistake in one of the basic theories of economy. So, a mistake in decision theory, which means our whole worldwide economy builds on false expectations, and we should build up our whole economic system in the world a completely different way, so every single one in the world could profit more from it. As I said, I'm not that deep into economy and the whole economic theories, but that book really helped me to understand what's happening. And they even made little drawings to explain everything, which I really loved. We have that throughout the whole book every time they explain a theory. So, in my opinion, that was really well done. And I can really recommend reading this book if you are interested in an economic thriller, because in the end, this is all based on reality. These are all real theories. That is the non-fiction part about it, which is why I love science thrillers so much. And the author Marc Elsberg had a lot of chats with people that do economic research on universities. And for me, that was the part that was most exciting. That again, this is a book based on reality, and that these things can really happen, and that people really do research for these kinds of topics. And that also means I can't wait to see what will happen in the next and last book of this vlog. I will read now the newest book of the author. So, Eden, I have no idea what this is about. I blindly trusted the author, so I will tell you more about it when I started the book. Not the best lighting here, but I don't care because I could finally start Eden and I am so in love with it. I started it yesterday in the evening around 8 p.m. and it is now 6 p.m. the next day. And I am halfway through the book right now and will definitely continue today. Maybe finish, but I don't know about that. But I am invested, I am intrigued, I want to know more. And the story is super scary as Celsius because it is so realistic and could be a possible future. And I don't want to live in that future. But let me tell you what this is about. It is also about climate change, like Celsius, but with a complete different focus. Because here we don't have solar radiation management. We don't talk about changing the climate and climate zones. We talk about things like the Amazonas region drying out, which leads to an extreme food shortage because in the Amazonas region they grow soy, and soy feeds a lot of animals like cows, for example. And if you can't feed the cows and other animals like pigs anymore, we have a massive problem because no more milk, no more meat. And if you think, yeah, then let's eat other stuff, we also have problems here because in regions like Europe, we have massive problems with the soil. So nothing is really growing, which means no corn, no bread, no more wine, no more beer, and also problems with the water. And if this isn't enough, we also have a problem in the oceans because we had a massive decline in phytoplankton, which is what all the fishes in the oceans eat. So all the fishes are dying now. And you can see a lot of problems that would be manageable if there would only be one of these problems, but altogether, big crisis incoming. This is not fun, and this is why this is scary because these are all things that could happen. A lot of regions are on the tipping point, which leads to massive species extinction. And that leads to critical differences in global systems. And yes, we had a big AI system that forecasted a lot of these crises, but nobody wanted to hear it. And the big question is now, is this all just random? Is it nature? Or does someone forced these crises? I don't know at this point, but I'm super interested to see and to read more. It is fast paced, it is full of action, and I'm flying through these pages. The chapters are super, super short. We have a lot of different POVs around the world to look into detail with these different crises. And as I said, I am invested. I want to read more, and that's what I'm doing now. So I will see you probably tomorrow with the final update. And here I am, not even 48 hours after I started Eden, and I finished this 760 pages book. So you can say I inhaled the story and I loved it. As I told you in my update before, it was scary because it is so realistic and things like that can happen with species extinction, with extreme food shortages, with multiple life threatening crises for our world and our population. And even now, after I finished the book, I don't know if these crises were human made or nature made, probably a combination of both. And some things were definitely forced here because people got greedy and they want to make money and power. So they forced some food shortages, which is an asshole move, let me say that. But I was super, super invested in the story. And I am so glad and thankful that I got this review copy and could read the book now. Like every other Marc Elsberg book, I can only recommend reading Eden, and I will definitely recommend it to my dad because these are the books that we both love. And I really loved not only how realistic it was and that it was fast paced and full of action. I also loved most of the POVs we had and was invested in the storytelling there. For the characters like Linus and Sarah, but I also loved the comeback of Piero Manzano, a character we already know from Blackout, because he was also one of the main characters there. And he developed now an AI system that can forecast a lot of these crises. So, in this story, we not only had the consequences of climate change, we also had a lot of AI talk, a lot of political talk, a lot of economic talk. So, a combination of a lot of topics Marc Elsberg wrote about before, and I loved it. I can't wait to read more of Marc Elsberg, but that has to wait now because now I have read all of his books. So, this big stack that is super heavy, too heavy to hold it with one hand, but I can only recommend reading these books. I told you which books are available in English, and if I could only recommend one book, it would be Blackout. So have a look at it. Please tell me in the comments if you enjoy this kind of thrillers. Like this video if you wanna follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!